Facial identification.
Yes. Now resuming our scheduled programming. So, Reb David Segal, he is visited by the president of the community, and the president of the community doesn't know what to do, because he knows that Reb Segal is such a wonderful, great tzaddik. But on the other hand, everyone wants him out, so he doesn't know how to break the news to him. But he has to break the news to him. He doesn't want him to find out from the newspaper, so he goes to his house, and he's looking around the house. And Reb is like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "I'm looking for something." What are you looking for? "I'm looking for something." "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for the rabbinical post of Brezhnev." So Reb David Segal was, of course, great tzaddik and genius, and he realized that he was fired. So he took his family the next day, and they left, and eventually he became the Rav in a much, much larger city, Lemberg, and he wrote the Pirush and Shulchan Aruch and many other books on the Torah. But he had to leave that city, and it was all because of his great...
Learning it in the wisdom right now.
You're learning the task. So he worked extremely hard in Torah. To get Torah, to understand Torah, it requires a lot of effort. I mentioned this briefly last week. The Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, chapter 15, chapter Perek Tezvav, that there's a difference between those who serve Hashem, those who don't serve Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe says, who are those who serve Hashem? Those who review their lesson 100 times, 101 times. And those who review their lesson only 100 times are called people who do not serve Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe asks, what's the difference? You studied 100 or 101 times, what's the big deal? What's the difference to one time? You reviewed your lesson 100 times, you're not considered a servant of Hashem. At what point do you consider a servant of Hashem? When you study it 101 times. So the Alter Rebbe gives an example from the Gemara, of a donkey, rent a donkey market, where they have this system where in those days they rent a donkey. It would cost one zuz, the currency of those days, to rent a donkey to go 10 parsa. But if you want to take that donkey to go 11 parsa, you want to go one mile more, it costs twice as much, it costs 2 zuz. Why is that? Because you're taking the donkey beyond its limits. Since you're going beyond the limits, so therefore it costs twice as much. Similarly, the Alter Rebbe says, since in those days the custom was that everyone review their lessons 100 times, so studying it 101 times, doing one beyond your limit, was considered, put you in a different category, and made you you were then considered a servant of Hashem. So this is also what Rashi is saying. You have to work in studying Torah. It's not enough just to know Torah, you have to work in studying Torah. But if you look at the pasuk, it doesn't really say in the pasuk itself, it doesn't say anything about studying Torah. It says, which literally means, if you will go in my laws. It doesn't say anything about studying Torah. How does Rashi know that the words mean you should study Torah? Those words just mean you should go in my laws, and especially the word that's used over here for laws, b'chukosai, is actually referring to the laws of the Torah which we're not supposed to understand, the laws which are higher than logic. And the Rashi says that word means you have to work hard in studying Torah. How does that mean that? That's what Arachaim asks on Rashi. Let's say you are talented. Let's say you have a good memory. Let's say you are able to concentrate and you get things the first time. What's so bad? Why is the Torah you have to work in studying Torah? What's wrong if you just get it and know it the first time? What's missing? In every other field, besides Torah, you're able to achieve without necessarily putting in the hours. Someone who's gifted and learns mathematics, and he learns geometry, he learns algebra, he learns trigonometry, and some people need 10 hours to learn that same subject, and some people learn it in 9 hours. It doesn't go by the amount of time you put in, it goes by who you are, and depending on who you are and your circumstances, that's how much effort you need to do. But here in Torah we say it doesn't matter how talented you are, you have to work. Here the Rambam writes, a person might say they can get the Torah if they just enjoy life and they eat foods and they have a great time, and they'll study Torah too. The Rambam says that the Torah is only acquired by somebody who kills himself over, someone who works really hard to study the Torah. As in one of the 12 Torah passages, Yagaiti Matsasi time, when someone tells you, I've tried, I've worked hard, and I've been successful, then believe him. Someone says, I didn't try and I was successful anyways, don't believe him. In other words, God only gives himself to somebody who works hard. to get the Torah, to get any other subject, to become, to get a degree in anything. So it sometimes people, they're in real estate and they make a good deal. They didn't put any effort in. They just no present company excluded. It's possible that you could do gambling, and it's possible that you have mazel. Mr. Reich, Alav Shalom, was a very successful businessman. He said that in his business, his success was 90% mazel and 10% seichel, 10% intelligence. And he said if he could switch his 10% of intelligence for 10% more mazel, he would do it in a second. So in business, you don't have to necessarily put in the hours. It has to do with your success, and sometimes a little bit of effort, and you have a lot much more success. God just gives you, opens the door. And here in Torah, it's different. Torah says you have to. Hashem only gives Himself to you if you put in the effort. It was one year in Tafshin Chaf Aleph, 1961. It was the first time that they arranged that a charter plane should come to the Rebbe for Tishrei. And the plane arrived. I heard this from someone who heard this from the one who witnessed this. The Rebbe on Rosh Hashanah wouldn't sleep. So he arrived before Rosh Hashanah, and after Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe has Chassidus, private audiences. And that year there was Rosh Hashanah and then Shabbos and there's Farbrengens. So it came out the Rebbe didn't sleep 3 nights, 4 nights, 5 nights, 6 nights, 7 nights in a row. How's that possible? The Gemara says that if someone makes a neder, someone makes a vow, I'm not going to sleep for 7 nights, so then the vow isn't considered invalid because it's impossible. But whether it's impossible or not, this was what was happening. And this Bacher was a little bit of a chutzpahniak, a little bit of an arrogant person. So he found a way to look into the Rebbe's room in the afternoon, after these 7 days of 2 days, Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos, and then all night seeing people, and he hears the Rebbe learning.
In 770 or
in 770, the Rebbe's learning, and his Rebbe's voice is suddenly you can't hear the Rebbe's voice anymore, and he looked at his watch. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. The Rebbe continued learning again, like Gibber Kari, learning again, as if nothing happened. So obviously, this is not something that we could emulate. When the Rebbe's mother came out of Russia, she went to France in Tafshin Zayin, 1947. The Rebbe went to France to help his mother with her papers, and that was in France for 3 months. And someone visited the Rebbe in the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe's bed was full of svarim. Apparently, the Rebbe kept the chumrah of his father, which the Rebbe's father also never had a chumrah of not sleeping in a bed that someone else slept in. So 3 months, okay, no sleep. So the point is not that we should sleep or that we shouldn't sleep. This is something that is not on our caliber. Of course, that the point is something else. The point is like this. There's a Jew, there's a shliach in Belgium, named Rabbi Salvatitsky. He was studying in yeshiva called Kol Torah. The head of the yeshiva was Rabbi Shem Zalman Erbach. And one day he's studying in yeshiva, and he sees a boy next to him with a very down face. And the yeshiva is a time people, they develop, they're growing, and he sees a boy with a down face. What's going on? He says, I work so hard. I work terribly hard, trying to figure out this Gemara. And the most I get on a test, I've worked really hard, is an 80. Other guys, they work very little, they get hundreds. And I'm just wasting my time. Why am I working so hard? It's not like I'm not working, I'm working. So I'm just wasting my time. So by Salvatitsky, he wasn't yet a chassid, but he said to him, I have an idea for you. Write a letter to the Rebbe. He writes a letter to the Rebbe. The Rebbe answers like this. You're looking at your goal. Your goal is you think you're supposed to become someone, become a lamdan, become someone who's very knowledgeable in Torah. But that's not the goal. The goal is, and therefore you're upset you're not reaching that goal. But the goal isn't that you should become very knowledgeable in Torah. The goal is, the Torah says, why did God create every person? Ani nivreisi l'shamash askoini. I was created to serve my master. So you were created not because of to achieve, to reach a certain point. You were created to work. You were created to put in the effort, to study as much as you can. You weren't created to get somewhere. You were created to put the effort in. So somebody else, the Rebbe says, who may achieve a lot more than you in their knowledge, but they achieve a lot less than you in regards to how Hashem measures things. And the way Hashem measures things is not about how much you know, it's how much you put in. So another guy may know a lot more Torah, and he may be far ahead of you, but in regards to Hashem's book, you're actually ahead of him. The Chafetz Chaim explains very interesting at the end of the Masechta, when we make a siyum, we say the words, they work and we work. They work and they don't receive a reward, and we work and we receive a reward. The Gemara is saying how great is to study Torah. It's this prayer that many people say, but when they begin to study Torah and then we finish studying Torah, a prayer composed by Rabbi Chuni ben Akana. It's not our custom to say this prayer. Probably, I think the Rebbe actually said because this prayer was instituted only for great poskim, those people who paskin halacha, and we're not people who paskin halacha. So, but there is this beautiful prayer composed by Rabbi Chuni ben Akana, and he says, they work and they don't receive a reward, and we work and we do receive a reward. What does he mean? People work without receiving a reward. If you're working, you get paid. Only they work and they don't receive a reward. So the Chafetz Chaim explains, he says people work, but their way they're paid is based upon their achievements. We're not paid the same way. We're not paid based upon, Hashem doesn't reward us based upon how much we accomplish. Hashem pays us based upon how much we put in. So they work, they're not paid for the work. They're paid only for what they achieve. The Chafetz Chaim gives a mashal of Chafetz Chaim gives a mashal like this. He says you go into a store and a store of suits, and you go and you see one suit is $100, one suit is $200, and go into the corner of the store, there's a suit which is $10,000. And you go to the owner of the store. The Chafetz Chaim gives this parable. You go to the owner of the store and you say, "What's up with this suit? Why is this suit is all messed up? The stitches aren't right and the buttons in the wrong place. And why is this suit a $10,000 suit?" So the owners tell him, "Well, this is the way we price our things. We don't price everything based upon how the thing comes out. We price it according to how much effort was put in. The one who made this suit was blind. It took him 6 months to make this suit. So we're paying him for, the suit costs $10,000 because you're paying for the 6 months of work that the guy put into making the suit." So that's the pshat, that's the meaning of what Hashem expects us in the beginning of this week's Parashat Amelin B'Torah. It doesn't mean that you have to become like the Chinese. Everyone has to get an A. Not everyone has to get an A. But Hashem wants us to go beyond our nature. Hashem wants us to work hard. It's not that Hashem wants us to achieve and become the best and become the Shimon Shkap and become the Tesis, become Rashi. No. Hashem wants every year to be Amelin B'Torah, to work hard in Torah. So the paradigm of what Rashi is saying is really it's very, very different to what the other cultures of the world are saying. They're saying everyone has to become the best. Rashi is not saying you have to go and challenge and push a child to become the best. It's make sure that he becomes his best, that he gives his best in what he's doing. And the same as for each of us, not just for our children. Hashem wants us to put our best into what we're doing. There was a king who had a son who, the prince, was a little bit spoiled. The king wanted his son to work hard. So the king saw his son's becoming he's just a lazy guy, not doing anything. So the king says, I want my son to become something. Soon I'm going to die and I'm going to give the palace over to he's going to take care of the palace. And this guy's not doing anything. So he can't possibly take care of the palace. I want to teach this guy how to work. So the king asked this blacksmith, "Can you please hire my son?" Blacksmith's like, "All right, sure, your majesty, whatever you say." And the prince goes to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith sees this guy. He looks at the boy's hands. His hands are so edel, so refined, so gentle, so soft. So what's he going to do with this guy? So he puts him in the by the office, and the guy just sits there all day, and he gives him a golden coin at the end of the day. He goes, "Come back tomorrow." Comes back the next day. Every day gives him a golden coin. Every day the king is, "Okay, my son's working. It's great." One day the king goes to visit the blacksmith, and he sees what his son's not doing anything. And the blacksmith is just, in honor of the king, is hiring his son, but he's not really doing anything. So the king says, the son comes home, the prince comes home with the golden coin. The king takes the golden coin and throws it in the fire. You don't deserve this. This is worthless. Every day the son comes home with a golden coin, and he throws it in the fire. One day the king has an idea. Tells his son, we're going somewhere. Takes his son a few miles away to the edge of the country, and he says to him, he finds this guy, this blacksmith doesn't know who the king is, doesn't know that this is a prince. He says, take this guy and make him work, and teach him the trade. And he takes him and teaches him the trade. He makes the prince work really, really hard. The guy's now carrying the stuff and putting stuff in the fire, working really hard. And at the end of the day, he gives him a kopek, he gives him a penny. And the prince comes home with his kopek, and his dad's and he says, Dad, don't throw it in the fire, because I put my soul into this kopek. That's the difference. Hashem wants us to put our soul into our Torah study. Hashem wants us to make an effort. It's not about what you achieve. It's about you putting your soul into it, but working really hard into it. The Rebbe Rashab once was visited by this gentleman who told the Rebbe Rashab, so my son learned this, my son learned this, my son learned this. Rebbe Rashab responded, what did the Torah teach him? For the Torah to teach you something, you need to put your effort into it. And that's why the Torah uses this funny word over here, B'chul Kosai. The Alter Rebbe explains that the word B'chul Kosai comes from another word, which means engraved. Engraved. What's the difference between if you write something down or if you engrave it on a stone? If you write something on a paper, so you could erase it, you could separate it. Don't stay with the paper forever. But if you engrave it on stone, so the stone and the letters that are engraved in the stone become one. And so too, in order for the Torah to become part of you and to get all the brachas, and this parsha brings lots of brachas. To get all those brachas, Hashem says you have to have a meilim b'Torah. You have to put an effort into it. Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't find that his children became so great. We find that Aaron's children took him over, Nadav and Avihu. We find that Miriam, her son, but we don't find Moshe Rabbeinu's children anything. What happened to Gershom? We don't find anything about them. So there are many explanations about this. One of them is that Moshe Rabbeinu's children didn't suffer in Egypt. The tribe of Levi didn't suffer. Since they didn't suffer so much, so they weren't able to reach these to achieve. To achieve, you have to. That's a good question. Very good question. Aaron Kain's children didn't have to work either. Very good. I don't know. But that explanation given Moshe Rabbeinu specifically that his children didn't reach the same greatness as Moshe because they didn't have to suffer. Huh?
He was in the palace?
Or? No, his kids weren't born in the palace.
But the whole tribe of Levi didn't have to work.
Well, I thought was in Mitzrayim because he said he met him.
He met Aaron in Mitzrayim. He visited Aaron in Mitzrayim. He wasn't even in Mitzrayim at all. Very good. So Shog answered your question. Shog answered.
They didn't get land. Where did they stay?
Where were the tribe of Levi staying in Mitzrayim? They were in Mitzrayim. They were in Goshen. But they just didn't have to work hard. But Yisroel said a very good answer. He said Moshe Rabbeinu was out of Mitzrayim. He went back to Mitzrayim. So his children weren't even there. So they came back afterwards. I don't know. Either way, but the truth is they were raised there. Anyways, that's a different subject. Bottom line is that
Aaron. I said that Aaron met Moshe, or is that the other way around?
Aaron met Moshe. Moshe came back to Mitzrayim. So, who loves who more, Yisrael? Does a father love a child more, or the child love his parents more? What do you think?
Yes.
Depends. You would think that a child will love a parent more, because a child relies on the parent. A child gets everything from the parent, and the parents put so much, make such an effort in the children. But it's the opposite. Because the parents put so much effort into raising their children, therefore their kishkas, their whole life, their whole soul is in the children. There is an argument, not really an argument, but there was a question in the time of the Gemara about the counting the Omer. When does counting the Omer begin? The halacha, of course, the tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu is the counting the Omer begins the night after the first day of Passover. But the Tzdukim, they had a big problem with this. The Tzdukim said, it says in the Torah, you should count the Omer from the day after Shabbos. So there was one old Tzduki who met Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he told Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, you guys are off. You rabbis, you say that Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people, though it says in the Torah the day after Shabbos, it means the day after Pesach. We know for sure it's the day after Shabbos. Really, the first day of Pesach is supposed to be on Shabbos. Every single year, the first day of Pesach has to be on Shabbos, and there always has to be counting the Omer in this way, where you count the Omer on Sunday. It's not the day after Pesach, the day after Shabbos. It's Pesach falls out on Shabbos. How do I know this? He tells him, because Moshe Rabbeinu loves the Jewish people. Wouldn't it be great to have 2 days of Yontiv next to each other? If you have Shabbos next to Yontiv, so then you end up having a 2 days of Yontiv and then Shabbos. So since Moshe Rabbeinu loves the Jewish people, so for sure Moshe Rabbeinu would set up the calendar in a way where you have a Yontiv and then you have Shabbos right afterwards. Rechem Zakai responds to this old Saduki. He says, if Moshe Rabbeinu loves the Jewish people, then why did he take them in the desert for 40 years? That's what Moshe Rabbeinu answers. Now, that's what Rechem Zakai answers him. Now, the obvious question is, who was right? Obviously, the Tzduki is right. Moshe Rabbeinu loves the Jewish people. If he loves the Jewish people, so then why is he saying he doesn't love the Jewish people? Why is Rechem Zakai saying he doesn't love the Jewish people? The Tzduki is saying he loves the Jewish people. That's why he wants to make the holiday and Shabbos next to each other. And Rechem Zakai is saying, nah, if he loved them, he doesn't love them. If you love them, why do you make them go in the desert? Rechem Zakai is teaching us what love is about. Love isn't about that you let the child do whatever they want to do. That's not love. Love means that you demand. Love means that you ask. You try to bring out the talents that are there in your child. If you just are satisfied your child not doing anything, just let them be how they are, that's not love. Love means that you challenge your child. You make them become who they could become. Love is about... So Moshe Rabbeinu made them go in the desert for 40 years. Why? Because in order for the Jewish people to be who they could be, they had to go through the trials and the tests that they had in the desert. So this is what Rashi is telling us in the parsha. He's telling us, how do you make the Torah part of yourself? How do you get the brachas in the parsha? There has to be this inyan of amelim b'Torah. You have to work hard on Torah. When you work hard on Torah, then it becomes part of you. Then you care about it. It becomes part of you, and you get all the brachas in the sixth parsha. And the Torah continues, I'll give you the rain in its season. And the Rebbe Rashab explains, actually many Sfarim explain, doesn't just mean rain. All physical blessings are a result of by making an effort in studying Torah. It brings brachas in everything that you do. So I want to conclude with one amazing thing. There's a blessing we'll wish each other. The blessing we wish each other is arichos yama, have long days. His blessing isn't so relevant now because Mashiach is about to come, we'll live forever. But the blessing always was arichos yama, have long days. What does long days mean? Long days. So the simple meaning is have many days, but that's not what the words are. Long days. What's long days? So Rebbe explains like this. A day that you don't observe Torah, you don't do mitzvahs, is an empty day. It's not a day at all. A day that you learn Torah, you do mitzvahs, it's a day. But a day that you start off the day, and you work in Torah, and you put your heart in Torah, you make an effort in Torah, and that inspiration, you start off your day, continues on the rest of the day, that's a long day. When people say at the end of the day was a long day, usually means a difficult day. But the bracha that we give each other, a long days means that your Torah, that you do the inspiration in the beginning of the day, in the beginning when you start off your day, you study Torah, it should continue. It should be something you go with the rest of the day and you should hold on to. That's a bracha we give each other. And through that, by making effort on Torah, in the Sati Geshmechem Be'itam, Hashem says, I'll give you the rain in its season, not just the rain, but all the brachas. The main bracha is the Bias Mashiach Bar Mamash.
Amen.
Any questions, comments, criticism, tomatoes and cucumbers before we break?
Pickles.
Do you have any other reasons why Bnei Moshe weren't...
I don't remember any explanations now. It's spoken by many Sfarim.
Rabbi, every time.